Off. So welcome everybody and welcome to the first Welsh Azure user group session of 2025, 15th of January 2025. Good to see a few folks already joining. No doubt there'll be a few more joining as I get through my initial ramble. I think people have just got used to it now. I should just record this, Matt, and press play at the beginning of a session, surely.
Provide a link.
Um, yeah, no, absolutely. As always, like I say, thank you all for joining. Huge thanks to, again, we've got another two phenomenal speakers joining us tonight that we'll get to in a moment. But thanks for the audience for joining and coming along and partaking in these sessions. It's kind of down to me and Matt now. We try and organise these sessions, and at the moment they're virtual. We were just saying, we've been what kind of about 4 years, just over 4 years now, Matt, something like that, that we've been running
Yep.
these user group sessions. And we've done them predominantly virtual because we kind of started in COVID times, right? So I think we gathered a great audience of you folks here and wider afield. So it kind of feels natural to keep it kind of virtual, which is why we partially haven't gone the whole hog and gone back to in person to a certain extent. So no doubt we've been threatening to do that for a while, but we'll still keep them hybrid. So, if you are in and around the area, then obviously keep in close contact and help us spread the word if you can. Because obviously, when we do go to do one of those in-person events, we'd love to get a few local people in and around. And obviously, like I say, you've got our promise that we'll keep them hybrid as well. So at least we can keep our virtual audience connected at the same time. So yeah, anything, any ideas, if you want to speak, any thoughts, suggestions, you want to take part, you want to help organize an event, anything like that, please do reach out to myself or Matt. There's our LinkedIn details, and we're on Twitter, X as it is now. Please do reach out to us. Usual housekeeping. Please, everybody, please do be courteous to each other. We're all here to learn, so there are no silly questions. Every question is an opportunity to learn something new. So this is the space to do that. Don't feel you're asking something trivial. It's not. Please do ask. You've got access to the chat facility. I think Andrew said he's quite happy for everybody to kind of chime in along with the session, but stay on mute if you can. It kind of helps with the concentration, unless you're invited to come off or you've got a question. Because it just kind of doesn't distract the speakers from what they're talking about at the time. Like I say, the chat facility is open, so please do use that. And don't forget that we've got our usual quiz after the second speaker will be after Andrew's session tonight. So please do stick around 10-15 minutes after the speakers have given their sessions and join in on that. There's some spot prizes up for grabs. Most importantly, be interactive and enjoy the sessions. They've been put together by some fantastic speakers. So firstly, you guys turning up to watch them, consumers, is one big thank you. But equally, if you can, be a bit engaged, be interactive, give us some questions, helps us all learn a little bit more. Then I think. So on to tonight's event. As I say, we've been fortunate to get a really good long run of really good speakers to these events over these years. So first up we've got Marcin coming on, and we thought we'd do a bit of a mixed bag, but everything for a bit of an AI talk for this evening, just to mix it up a little bit. So Marcin will be joining us first up to talk around Azure Backup, which personally, from my perspective, is always one of those kind of vital areas that. I wouldn't say always gets overlooked, but certainly doesn't get, I think, the limelight that it probably deserves in any environment. I think it's always too easy to talk about things these days in a HADR capacity world. So, really interested to see what Marcin's going to kind of talk us through in terms of those. What does your Azure backup look like at the minute, and are you ready for the worst? I know personally I've seen some of those bizarre worst scenarios. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. So thanks, Marcin, again for joining us. We'll kick over to you very shortly. And then for those that you've not seen Andrew and his tremendous efforts over the years, I've been fortunate enough to be in touch with Andrew for probably about 4 or 5 years now, and done a few things, community-driven events and bits and pieces. And if you're not following Andrew, go and follow him. He's doing fantastic things with his courses across the globe. Really, I mean, it's across the internet. It's all digital. But Andrew's going to join us and really give us a bit of a hands-on experience with Azure AI Foundry. So if you joined a little bit earlier, you would have heard us all jammering on about our latest and greatest with AI. So it's all hot topics of the moment, and we'll look forward to Andrew's talk very shortly. Um, Timing wise, we'll be kicking off as soon as I stop rambling on. So, like I say, Marcin will be up first, about 40 minutes or so, and then Andrew will be joining us. Quiz after Andrew's session. Up for grabs, a couple of Amazon gift cards there, so worth joining in. So that's open to everybody if you've got time to stick around to the end. So should be done in about 2 hours or so for timing wise. We do record the events; they will be up after as well. If there is anything you need to go back to and have a look, and just follow the Welsh Azure handle on X or the LinkedIn group, and I'll post those videos up there as soon as they are uploaded. A quick before we get into it, last thing, as always, is a quick shout out to our sponsors. As always, it's been great support from Servant, who have been a bit of a mainstay for us as the Welsh Azure user group for the last 4 years plus. They are they're an Azure pure play consultancy firm, delivery firm based up in Scotland. A great team of guys and girls working for Servant at the moment. So, if you are in that space or you're looking for a career change, maybe reach out to the team. I'm sure they're always open for discussions. So yeah, big shout out to Servant. Thank you for all their support over the years. Equally, a big shout out to our co-sponsor, CreditSafe. I've said this before, but one of the missions of the user group, or one of the kind of things that we wanted to achieve, is to act as a little bit of a conduit and a network for Azure folks working across local Wales and South Wales predominantly, because that's where we're based. Enterprise and CreditSafe being based and HQ'd in Cardiff, South Wales, was always really nice to get them onboarded as a sponsor. So big shout out to the team. I think I saw Ridian join a little bit earlier. I don't know if Ridian's still in the chat there, but
Yeah,
he is indeed. Here we go. How are you doing, Ridian?
Hi, not so bad. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, all good, all good. I was going to say it's been probably God. You've been coming to these groups now for a good couple of years. I think CreditSafe have been a sponsor for at least a
Yeah,
year, 18 months now. It feels
yeah,
it's
we have. We have. It's been
been a
good.
little
Yeah.
while. But look, big shout out to both our sponsors. It's always great to help spread the word, and obviously, hopefully we'll be getting Ridian back on soon to give us another little bit of a talk around what CreditSafe have been up to with Azure over the last couple of years. Because I think Ridian, you came on quite a few months back now to give us that kind of comparison in terms of how to handle multi-cloud, right, and what the pitfalls were, and how CreditSafe are kind of handling those at the moment. So, like I say, really good kind of thoroughbred speakers we've been fortunate to have on, and really good talks and really good kind of discussions that have come off the back of them. So, look, thank you all for joining. I'm going to pipe down now, and I'm going to hand you over to our first speaker. We're going to get the show on the road. So, Marcin, if you are ready to take control, I will hand over to you, sir.
And now you should see my screen.
Got you. Yeah. Got you loud and clear.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this the first session today. It's going to be about Azure Backup, and as the title is, your Azure Backup is good, but already to the worst. I'm Marcin, I'm based in Poland, and I will guide you through some critical aspects of Azure Backups, also about recovery service vault, and some practical techniques to ensure some real resilience of and against disasters. In the past, I've seen teams rely on some default backup settings only just to discover gaps in encryption, plus maybe about retention policies and geo redundancy when actual some outage occurs. But in this session, we'll explore how to design, how to architect your backups, how to incorporate LPO and FTO planning. About that, I'll show you what does it mean later, and also how to conduct through some restore tests. So I hope so. By the end, you will know exactly how to protect and how to recover most important workloads like VM, like database servers, etc. in Azure. I've included a couple of demos here, so it's not only about the theory, but there is 3 or 4 recorded demos from Azure how to set up recovery vault and the backup. That would be the second screen. Okay, I need to click it here. My second screen. Couple of words about me. From the last year, I'm a Microsoft valuable professional, so MVP in Azure, and from couple of years, I'm also MCT, so certified trainer. I'm teaching other like companies and folks about various Azure services and resources. Last time, of course, it's about AI world currently, so more technical sessions about configuring AI services. I also possess a couple of Microsoft certifications passed in the last couple of years. But mostly I'm DevOps engineer, and also from next month I'm becoming the product architect. And I'm focusing mostly on the Microsoft technologies and Azure cloud. So when it comes to the agenda, so firstly, introduction, later we'll go through the what is Azure Recovery Service Vault plus backup, some best practices for backup deployments, recovery restoration process, and a couple of minutes to some recommendations and also Q&A. So firstly, when it comes to introduction, why backups even matter? Because we need to know the basics just before we go to the technical points, how to do that in Azure. So why are we focusing so heavily on backup? Because data loss in the cloud isn't just about some flipping a switch to restore, because recently also I worked with a healthcare provider that assumed the Azure automatically covered all their compliance needs, but when a virtual machine hosting patient data crashed, they realized that they hadn't enabled long-term retention points, right? And lacked with proper monitoring alerts. So turning a quick fix of into a multi-day crisis. But in Azure, we can enable backups that involve more than a single daily snapshots because they demand strategies to align with business SLAs, like with encryption policies and with maybe some validations, some periodic validations. So whether you're backing up VMs, databases, SQL databases, or just some unstructured file shares like in the storage accounts, you must design your solution to meet some your exact recovery objectives. Otherwise, you risk finding out during some emergency that your backups aren't just reliable as you assume, right? There are also a couple of myths and misconceptions. So let's tackle some maybe biggest myths. First, I think many think that like Azure Recovery Services Vault itself is all you need. Just set it and forget it. But in reality, the vault is just the container. So you still have to configure backup schedules, define the retention rules, and integrate with Azure Monitor, for example, to getting some alerts to Teams, to even some messages to your phone or to your mailbox. And secondly, a single backup policy rarely fits every scenario. So, for example, for production SQL database, it might need some transaction log backups every 15 minutes, while a dev environment could survive on just less frequent schedule. I don't know, maybe even one per day, to save the cost, of course, right? And lastly, there is the idea that you can rely solely on default restore procedures and also without testing. And untested backup isn't truly a backup, it's just a gamble. So we'll examine also how to validate the recovery with maybe some automated scripts or just on-demand drills. So thanks to that, you can assure that you're ready for just real disruptions. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper to understand what is Azure Recovery Service and what is Azure Backup. there are a couple of things to know. Role of Azure Recovery Service Vault. So first, it just delivers centralized backup management, and it allows you to organize all your backup configuration in just one place. So even across multiple workloads and subscriptions. And second, it offers also the monitoring and reporting. So this is the key. For me, this is the key for maintaining visibility over backup health and also staying compliant. And third, it also provides the secure storage for your backup backup data. And if you ever tried maybe juggling multiple storage accounts and manual backup scripts, you will appreciate how the Vault just consolidates and also secures everything under just, let's say, one umbrella. And there is the first demo. So to don't talk too much, I will show you here how to create Recovery Vault and what is inside of Recovery Vault. So first, we need to just find the proper service is just Recovery Services Vault. And we'll need to just fill the sample form. This is the list of already created vaults. First, we will just, as usual, selecting a subscription and resource group. I selected specially for this Welsh Azure resource group. And when it comes to the vault name, as you can see, we have some naming conventions here. So we can't have any space in the name, and we need to select the region. Later, I will show you how to connect the recovery service vault with the VM. So the virtual machine needs to be in the same region as recovery service vault. Redundancy encryption of data, I will use just Microsoft Manage, so built-in. Encryption type. It also can we can enable immutability. Later the networking, I will use the public one just for demo, but if you would like to enable and deny the public access, you can create or just pin your virtual network here and create private endpoint to virtual network. Later you can add any tags, so for example environment, which is for example production or call center or whatever other policy you have when it comes to the tax management. And that's it, you're just creating the service. I think it's taking like 1-2 minutes. I just a little bit speed up it here. And from this view, you can just go to the resource directory by clicking this button. So this is it. We created an empty recovery service vault. We can see in the dashboard we have the sample data here. Everything is like 0 because nothing yet is linked to recovery service vault. But from the backup, from here, you can enable the you can select the virtual machine to be linked, or as you can see, the Azure file or SQL database. And from here, we can have two policy subtypes. For the non-production, let's say, types of environments, you can choose the standard because it's only once per day backup. We can also create the own policy, backup policy. Because you can see there is the default policy, but you can create your own. So you can you have the power to choose for example, the frequency of this backup and when it will be during the day, and also the retention of daily backup point, right? And other also options here. If you have more backup policies, you can just create the group of these policies and just assign. And from here, you're selecting the virtual machine, which will be just doing the backup to this recovery vault. And also you can select disks of this machine and also include the future disk, which will be and might be created to this VM. And also there is second deployment. It also, I think it's taking more than creating a recovery service vault, but it's also speed up a little bit. So as you can see, we're creating the backup item. It's called like backup item. I'm looking to the chat. There is no question yet. If you have any question, just you can just write to this chat. As you can see, deployment is still in progress. I thought I just cut this part of creating it like I did with Recovery Vault, but it should be done soon. Oh, that's it. It was like around 1 minute. And now the backup is done. So as you can see, we can go to the protected items and backup items. As you can see, there is the number of 1, the virtual machine, and here it is. From this list, you can see that pre-backup it was done. And from here, we have the option to check the jobs of this backup, of this virtual machine. And the only one job it was done here about configuring the backup. But when you will do or manually or by schedule a new backup, it also will be listed there. If we go a little bit back, yeah, we also can enable the alerts, but as of now, there is no alerts. But for example, if a backup will fail to generate, you will also get alert there. And also from here, we can check what kind of disk are configured with this backup. And as you can remember, it was also configured during the backup configuration later. And from this point, you can backup a virtual machine manually. So it's triggered already. It's also taking a couple of minutes. You can go to the notification here just to check what is the status. Okay, and it's done. We're going back, and also we can go to once again to overview to the dashboard. This backup failed because previously I created the recovery service vault, the first instance, and enabled the same virtual machine to the previous recovery service vault just to simulate how does it looks like when the backup failed. So it's listed there. That backup jobs just failed. From the other things that we can also check in the recovery service vault is about the policies. So from here we can edit the policy that we configured. We can also backup other types of infrastructure like services in Azure. And I think that's it. I think that's stopped now. So let's go to the next slide and talk about the Azure Backup Service. It's also called like Business Continuity Service. So Microsoft is changing the names of various services. So meanwhile, Azure Backup is just the service that does the, let's say, heavy lifting. So because it provides data protection for virtual machines, for SQL databases, and even more. Because these processes are also automated, it removes much of the repetitive overhead and freeing up you or just your team to focus on some maybe like broader operational tasks. And let's say when some disaster strikes, Azure Backup simplifies data recovery with just simple workflow. So what does it mean for you? It just does mean that you can recover some critical workloads swiftly, let's say, whether it's just like entire virtual machine or just a single file. So together, the Recovery Vault and Azure Backup enable a super smart solution, I would say, because one manages storage and security, and the other just orchestrates and executes the actual backups. And when it comes to deciding when and why, so when it comes to the service comparison, so now that we've just covered what Azure Recovery Service Vault and Azure Backup each bring to the table, so let's now check and choose what is the right service or just combination of both services for some specific scenario. So some factors to be considered just include the performance requirements like data type. Oh, sorry. I clicked the space. Oh, yeah, data type plus some other criticality of your workloads. So for instance, if you need some granular recovery for some mission critical database with some strict recovery time objectives, so this RTO abbreviation, so Azure Backups, automated and policy-driven approach might fit the best. But on the other hand, the Recovery Service Vault just excels at securely storing multiple backups across different workloads. Also consider your data types. So for example, virtual machine images, SQL data, file shares, and how frequently you need to restore them, right? So by aligning your workloads with the appropriate service, you ensure just both cost efficiency and also personal resilience. Some best practices for backup deployments, but before we go to this part of presentation, let's go and check how we can monitor and how we can create alerts to just be notified about any changes of currently created backups. So we are just creating a simple alert rule, and you would do that for not only for the backups but for any other type of alert. We are selecting what is the scope, so our Recovery Service Vault. Then we're going to use some conditions. So we are selecting the signal name. These all signals that we can use in creating the alert rule. Let's say we are going to choose which one: create vault, delete vault, export, or just maybe some backup metric. We have, as you can see, many options. And then if we selected a signal name, we need to define the alert logic and split by dimensions. So let's say we're going to be notified about the health status, which is transient degraded, or just as you can see, we have like other types. And on the right, we have the preview. I think it's maybe not the new feature of creating alert, but I remember 2-3 years ago it wasn't here. So it's also a good picture how in the past we had this kind of alerts or events, maybe not alerts, but events. And then we're creating something like action group. Action group, it's about to selecting the channel, which will be notified when the alert will be triggered. So for example, we can get a notification to phone or just to some let's say maybe some custom solution using a webhook to Microsoft Teams channel. We have multiple options here. So as you can see, or even by email, like I say, message, push, voice. I'm selecting my own mail. And even today I got some alert. I need to disable it. And we're just providing some name of this notification. Just for our information here. And action type is going to, it can be, as you can see, the last one was the webhook. So we can just add here the webhook to, for example, Microsoft Teams channel. It's also a super popular method. Oh yeah, I missed one thing. The alert tool name, it also will be registered in the resource group. So it also needs to be individual name. Looking to the chat, now with questions. And also you can see the pricing. So it's going to be just 10 USD. And from here you can check the action group is already created. And from here I have like 2 alerts, 1 critical, 1 error for 2 affected resources, like 2 recovery service vaults. So that works. So I deleted backup data from the previous recovery service vault I created before this demo, and also backup failure. So as you can see, you are getting also this information in one place. So in this dashboard, and also I got an email notification. So that really works. Okay, and backup strategy and policy design, because we are in the part of the best practices for backup. Designing the backup, but not normal backup, effective backup. Backup strategy starts with data identification. So we need to know which data is critical and must be recoverable within some defined SLAs. So it's not like, okay, we know that data is critical and we need to have backup, but it also needs to be recoverable, but within some time. So it's not like next month or the next day, but now, or just according to our defined SLAs. Next, the backup frequency is also the key, because databases handling high transaction volumes, and also it may have and need frequent snapshots or just incremental backups. Whereas lower priority workloads might be fine with daily or even weekly backups, but production might be more frequent. Also, we need to keep compliance requirements front and center. So some certain industries requires specific data retention durations or just encryption standards, and also requirements that can influence both your backup approach and your choice or just storage tier. And by addressing all those things, all those elements, also systematically, you will develop a backup policy that it's not only technically sound, but also aligned with business and maybe some regulatory demands and requirements. Some configurations tips. So when it comes to the configuration, just start by examining your organization specific backup needs. We need to start with like business needs. Because one size fits for all approach is usually leads to either overprotection or just some dangerous gaps in the policy in the backup policies. So first you need to configure retention policies wisely. Let's say too short and you risk losing some critical data, but too long you waste storage, and you're paying more for that. And don't also overlook the encryption, because whether it's a built-in encryption, so Microsoft One is about encryption at rest, or just customer managed keys, because you can just have your own key encryption key and use it and upload to Azure. But securing your backup data is also the vital for compliance and peace of mind, right? And finally, keep eye on performance metrics, because throughput and latency can indicate bottlenecks that might undermine your restore times, right? Because it consumes, for example, virtual machine performance. And also by fine-tuning these configurations, you're not just backupping up data, but you're also building the confidence in your entire recovery strategy. And I think when considering the configuration tips, it would be enough. I think I didn't miss anything. And also, it's not about creating backups, but even the most important thing is, besides of planned backup strategies, is to know that your backup and restoring the backups really works. And also, I've seen the organizations find out too late that VM extension was missing, or just rendering backups useless, right? And it's also good to regularly testing backups because it confirms that they are restorable and align with business requirements. It also gives you a early insight into any changes needed, for example, to the network settings or the security policies, or maybe some VM agent updates. So whether you are just performing automated restore drills or manual spot checks, I think this practice is, I would say, negotiable. I think for true operational resilience. So when it comes to the recovery restoration process, but before that, the last demo for today. Let's start from the beginning. So go to the Azure dashboard main page, and the new service, Business Continuity Center. I think previously it was called like Azure Backup Center. Yeah, Microsoft, I think, changed this name like 2 years ago, something like that. When it comes to the naming of changes, changes of the name, it's going to be a second session today about this AI Foundry, which was called AI Studio last year. So, but when it comes to this Business Continuity Center, as you can see, it's visible the resource name. Under the resource name is you can see that my virtual machine is protected because security posture is there. Also, you can see how many virtual machines are protected by the backup. Also from here, there are just enabled backups, but it's not configured by me, this one. And as you can see, it's like someone saw me, I deleted some backup data just to show you that also you can you can monitor also these kind of activities. And there is also all information about this virtual machine, which region is it, and when the event occurs, and also other metrics here. From the protectable resources and protected resources, protected items, you can see what kind of resources and which resources are protected and which not yet. This one I showed you just before. There are also Azure policies for protection. So this is just filtered by the categories about backup and site recovery. So from this page, you can enable some policies of the backup. You can do that also from the Azure subscription page, but you have everything in one place here. And protection policies, as you can see, this policy I created with you today, previously, and the vaults, the vault's name. So as you can see, this business continuity center has all information about your backups, about recovery vaults, about the reports, alerts, security posture, some also security dashboard. So it's everything just in one place. So when it comes to performing a restore and about bringing everything in the full circle, the recovery and restoration process. So in Azure, we typically begin by selecting the restore point from a recovery service or just from the Azure Backup interface. Next, you can choose whether to override the original resource or spin up a separate instance for testing. And once the process begins, you can monitor the status there. And finally, always perform post-restore checks. So to ensure that services are running, data integrity is just intact, and that your application dependencies are satisfied. And the final validation should ensure you can just rely on your backups when it just really counts. And also when it comes to the automating restore testing, because we can also just automate this phase, because manual restore duties are vital, but let's to be honest, they can be time consuming and also prone to human error. So if we can automate that, let's do that, because it solves those problems, right? And it also allows you to schedule just regular validations without tying up resources. So for example, you can use Azure Automation service or CI/CD pipeline by Azure DevOps or GitHub Actions or GitLab just to spin up your test environment, perform restore, and verify that services or databases come online as expected. So this approach is not only about saving time, but also provides ongoing assurance that your backup configuration, some retention policies, and cloud infrastructure just are sync. And if any step fails, you will know right away. So because you can see that pipeline just broken, and you can check what was the problem with restoring with this test restoring of your backup. And I think we are going to the end, and this is the last one. So when it comes to the backup jobs, as you can see, I did a couple of things in the meantime. So as you can see, I deleted the backup data, disabled backup, and also configured as a first step. From here also, when it comes to the backup alerts, you can check what was the problem. So for example, backup data for this backup item has been deleted. So this was the trigger for the alert. But that because there is soft delete enabled, even if I deleted the backup, there is 14 days by default that you can just recover from the soft delete the backup. And also you can have the security recommendations, but as you can see, there is nothing here. So for example, probably if I would disable this soft delete, I will get the not notification, but recommendation just to enable once again the soft delete. But I didn't have any recommendation because I just created the recovery service vault, and that's it. I didn't change anything in the configuration. But also, if you wish to remove the recovery service vault, you need to disable the soft delete and then remove hard remove and purge the backups that you did already, because I also needed to do that just before this session. Some takeaways, key takeaways from today. Just remember to remember how and why the backups are important. And I would like to also to remind you about some understanding both the technical capabilities and also limitations of Azure Backup services. And when it comes to the best practices like careful policy design, like frequent restores, what else? It was automated testing. There's a very good plan for just bulletproof configuration. And also focus on just recovery strategies. So if you can't recover quickly and seamlessly, the best backup strategy in the world really won't matter. And also by taking these lessons to your head, you will be really, I think, well prepared to safeguard your workloads and also meet business SLAs and I think sleep a lot better at night. Thanks a lot, guys. There is some kind of contact to me, LinkedIn, GitHub, email, but also you could also see my email in this alert configuration in the action group. Thanks a lot, guys. I can see one question. Is it possible to generate an alert for missed backup? I think you can do that. It wasn't enabled. It wasn't ready to use that, but you can write your own custom alert definition. I didn't see it was on this list, but everything you can do by your own using some kind of code and custom alert rule. I see you, John.
No, perfect. Great session. Thanks for that, Marcin. Really good. I mean, sometimes it's just interesting to kind of cover over those areas, and you can realize actually where the gaps are. But no, fantastic. I don't think there's any other questions for Marcin. If there are, please do pop them in the chat. I don't know if you're sticking around, Marcin, but obviously feel free to do so. Thank you again. If everybody would like to show their appreciation using the either come off mute and a round of applause or use the little react button there at the top.
Thanks, guys. I know it was basic and fundamentals of backups, but at least you can start. If you don't have, just you know what to do now.
No, it's perfect. Oh, Alan, did you have a question, or was that just your misplacement of the react button?
Oh, no, I am not.
It was a mistake.
No, Marcin, it's really good to cover these sessions. Level of detail I think was absolutely brilliant there. So I think it's it's a really good session to run through because I'm an infra guy, right? I see and hear these conversations quite a lot, so it's important to get these things right. So no, perfect level talk, I think. Thank you again, sir. And we will move over to our next session of this evening. I don't know if you are sticking around, Marcin, but if there's any questions in the chat, then
I'm here. I'm just here.
yeah, perfect. I don't know if Andrew is back. He's back. He's back from his throwing some wood on the stove. I don't know if you're there, sir.
I sure am. Just getting my camera back in order here. But let's see if I get my video back on here. There I am. I am back. Yeah, and so I'm not sure if folks can tell, but I actually am wearing a full-blown one-piece snowsuit as it is negative 20 Celsius outside today. So there's only so much I can keep this office warm, but luckily I have enough logs to get us through this session here. For those who don't know me, I'm Andrew Brown. I create free educational materials, such as certification courses. I have a lot of free Azure certification courses published on Free Code Camp. I'm running a free GenAI bootcamp. So that is where we are working through a series of projects over 6 weeks. It's something that is starting on February 1st. So anyone that is really interested in GenAI to apply that knowledge in a practical way, that is something else that folks might want to go check out. I'm really excited here to talk about Azure AI Foundry. I spent a significant time utilizing, at the time it was called Azure AI Services or Azure AI Studio Services. I know we have the name somewhere worked out here, but it is the same thing. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and share my screen and we will jump right into it. Now, I do have some slides, but I really would prefer this to be as interactive as possible. And I am going to pull the audience here and just see where everybody's at. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. And so from the audience here, can I just get a poll? Who is able to see my screen? If you can see my screen, give me a +1 in chat that you are able to see my screen. Okay, we're getting some +1s here, so we are good in business. So before we really get to this, how many folks here have used Azure AI Foundry, or just in general, like how much have you been digging into the AI side of these models of service offerings in Azure? Maybe on a scale to 1 to 10, 1 being totally new or you have yet to use it, and 10 being very experienced. Can we get some numbers here out and see what we get? 1, 3, 5, 5. Excellent. So we have some folks, some with lots of experience, some with no new experience. So that is really, really good. So what I want to do is just kind of walk through my experience of it. This is, again, we're just going to go through code and see whatever we can figure out here. But anyway, actually I have pulled up here is Azure AI Foundry. Now, if you wanted to start working with a model as a service, you're going to have to spin that up as a service. But the first thing that really confused me initially was all the different offerings, because when you first utilize it, and now it's called Azure AI Foundry, I just got to rename it, right? Azure AI Foundry. But one thing I was confused about was the difference between Azure OpenAI Services and then Azure AI Studio. So I think what happened was that when Microsoft first made this these series of products, they started out with Azure Open AI, because that was the original one that I had saw, and that would give you an API interface working with OpenAI services. OpenAI services being ChatGPT and things like that. And then over time, I think that they added Azure AI Studio, and then they added Azure AI Foundry, which is Azure AI Studio. Now, if you try to utilize Studio, it will redirect it. But you just have to hold those 3 names in your head at all times, because between those 3, those are the ones that you are going to be encountering quite often. And there is a bit of a trick, I think, to go ahead and set up your first hub, so to speak. But let's go ahead and take a look and see what we can learn. So if you wanted to get to Azure AI Foundry, they do have a nice short domain called ai.azure.com. Okay, and this will bring you to the Foundry page. But to be honest, this is not the way that I like to gain access to Azure AI Foundry. I find that sometimes there are more than one ways to do things with Azure services, but you are going to get more reliable results if you do it one particular way. And the only way to find that out is by working with these services. So if I was over here and we go over to portal.azure.com, okay, and we'll pull up the Azure portal. You can see here, if we typed in AI, we'll just say Azure AI. We should get, we do get Azure AI Services, right? But if we were to type in AI Studio, I'm just trying to see what variants that we get. Here we get Azure AI Foundry. So just understand that there is a lot of confusion between it, but it doesn't matter which entry point you get into. For the most part, you will end up making all of these services. But what I would recommend is I would type in Azure AI Foundry here. Okay. And then if we go to here, we'll go ahead and we'll create ourselves a new hub. So if you create a project, you have to have a hub anyway. So a hub manages multiple projects. So I would probably recommend creating the hub first. Okay. And we'll go ahead and make a new group here. I'll just call this RG My Hub AI. We'll go ahead and do that. And something that's really, really important is choosing the region you want to operate in, because certain models are only available in certain regions. And also certain feature sets are only available in certain regions. And for whatever reason, I don't know what's so special about Sweden, but they seem to have some of the best offerings for AI models that are available in Azure AI Foundry, but also feature sets. So if there's a feature you don't see, it's not that it might not be there, it just might not be in a specific region. So I'm going to go ahead here and type in Sweden Central. Then we're going to go ahead and say Azure AI Hub, whatever you want to call it. Okay. We'll go ahead and drop, default resource group. And so we have a resource group up there. So we'll leave that blank. And here it's saying Azure AI services based models. So when you create an Azure Hub, there are two services you want to have attached to it. Azure OpenAI services, which gives you access to OpenAI models and things like that. And then there's also Azure AI services, which, from what I can tell, is a collection of Azure AI services API intended to be used programmatically via a single API. So before all of this studio stuff, Azure had an offering of a bunch of different Azure AI services, but I believe what they did is they consolidated them into a single unified API, and that is what Azure AI Services is. But you can see here when you do this, it's going to say connect AI services and OpenAI. So it's actually going to create both those services in one go. We'll go ahead, hit review and create, and we will create our Azure AI Hub. And Alan says down below, Sweden is cold, so they can have more servers and cooling is cheap. If that was the case, they should bring them to Canada as well. We'll take your really good models. But that is true. One of the largest costs is trying to keep these computers cool, just because they use so much resources to run these large LLM models. So this is going to go deploy. I can't remember how long it takes to deploy, but we don't have to wait because I already have a hub deployed. And I believe this is the one, but let's go try to enter it from the, not Office, but we'll go to portal.azure.com. And so if we can see if we can enter it through another way. And so I'm going to go back over to Azure AI Foundry. And you can see I have a lot of stuff here. So I'm just trying to identify where the hub is. And so if I sort it here, I have this hub and this hub. So I believe the hub that I just made was this one. Was that the one I just made, folks? What did I type? Does anybody know? Serious note, they have a lot of renewable energy, so that might be a factor as well. I thought maybe the reason that they might be there is just because of, well, maybe it's just like, again, it could be what they're equipped with, but I thought maybe there's AI researchers or something there, so maybe there's some kind of something going on there. Not particularly sure. But anyway, does anyone remember what I called that other one? Oh, it was RG My Hub AI. So I guess this is my other one, but since this one's deployed, we can just go ahead and go to that resource. Okay, I thought it might take a longer time to do it, but here we are in Azure AI Hub. So in here, I'm not sure if it shows, if we go under settings, if it shows those two APIs. So we don't see it here just yet, but we are going to have to go ahead and open up Azure AI Foundry. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now you could individually create the services themselves and then attach them, but I don't find that works really well. So I always recommend creating a hub first. So we're going in here and saying, hey, Andrew, you do not have a project. You're going to need one. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to just call this My Welsh Cakes. And for those who don't know, if you weren't here earlier, I actually created some Welsh cakes as I thought that would be really fun because we were at the Azure Welsh group. And I've actually never had them before. Well, I lie a bit because I had them a bit earlier, but I can accurately say this is the first day that I've actually ever had Welsh cakes. And I like them, and I might make them more. But I haven't had lunch, so I need a little bit of chew. And we'll go ahead and create this project. While it's creating, for the audience, for those who have Welsh cakes, I'm curious, do you like raisins or chocolate chips? If you can, tell me down below in the messages. I'm really curious. John, Matthew, what do you like in your Welsh cakes?
We go one better than that. We do have shops that do a variety of different flavors. You've got coconut, you've got jam, you've got chocolate chips, you've got all sorts. I think jam is nice. Strawberry jam.
Definitely raisins. Traditional.
That's the traditional is raisins, yeah.
But when you say jam, do you mean that like just on the top or like incorporated?
Well, yeah, it depends where you get them from, but yeah, sometimes they'll incorporate it as a thin sliver inside the Welsh cake, almost like a donut, but not quite.
So for those who don't know, I used raisins, and I soaked my raisins in spiced rum overnight to just give them a little bit more kick, to give me that extra energy. So again, I think it turned out pretty good, but we'll see what my wife says. So now I'm in here and I've created my initial project. And so what you want to look at is for your endpoints, because that is going to connect you to those services. And you'll see we have 3 here. We have Azure AI Inference, Azure OpenAI, and Azure AI Services. And so, just make note that these are where they are, because if you want to work with very specific AI services that integrate with this stuff, then you need to see the capabilities of those services later on. But for the most part, we just need to work with a single API key. So now that we're in Azure AI Foundry, probably the first thing we want to do is to start working with a model. And so over here, we have our model catalog. If you're using other providers, sometimes they like to use different words like model garden. You can take a guess like which cloud provider likes to call it that. But Azure just likes to name things exactly what they are, which is a catalog. And so that makes our life really, really easy. And so here you can see we have a large selection of models. If we were in another hub that was in another region, such as US East 1, you would see much fewer models or just different access to models. So again, you might have to create more than one hub in order to launch a project which has the stuff that you want. As I believe that, I think it's that when you launch a hub, it's the hub that determines the location, not necessarily the project, if that makes sense. But we have a bunch of models here. And if we were to click into any of them, okay, one thing that we would have to do is accept the terms and agreements. Now, I've already done this, so I can't demonstrate this without creating a completely new Azure account. But there's a process where you have to say, hey, I want access to these models, and you have to fill out a form with your business information. And it looks like a regular form, and it doesn't tell you when they will be activated. But when I did this, it took me, I think initially it took me like a week. But I imagine that for some folks, it might be instantaneous. It might like appear right away. Try Welsh Rarebit, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but you know what? I actually made it the other day, and it was really, really good. At first, I thought it was just like cheese on bread, but I didn't realize there was all these extra steps of like making a roux and bringing the hard cheddar and making the tsunami flavor. So it was really good. But the reason I made the Welsh cakes is I showed off the rare bits yesterday on the socials, and John was suggesting, hey, go make Rarebit folks, how do you pronounce it? Is it rabbit, Rarebit? How do we say it?
I think you're right. Rarebit, yeah.
Okay, Rarebit, yeah.
You're about right, yeah.
So, but I mean, I like rabbits, so I wouldn't mind putting rabbit on that, but I'm not sure that's proper. Anyway, so the idea is that you'd have to go through this, and I think that's the biggest challenge working with AIs, that you have this big hang up. It's not specific to Azure. If you were to go to Hugging Face and you wanted to go download a model, utilize it, some of the models you have to accept their terms. So for one example, I've been trying to get access to Gemma, which is an open source model, and I've been waiting weeks or maybe months to get access to it and just get stuck. But at least in my experience, it wasn't hard to get access here, but there was a bit of wait time. So if you are planning to build a project, make sure you factor in a 1 or 2 week period if that happens to you. But again, you might be get access literally the same day, and this might have just been an issue that I had. But anyway, the point is that we have a model, and before we can start utilizing it, we need to deploy it. Now, deploy a model doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be costing us active spend. It just means that we are deploying it into a specific deployment configuration. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. It says registration is required to use this model. Access will be granted Microsoft's eligibility. You may not be eligible access this time. So this is really interesting because I have requested access, but I haven't used O1. When I used it, I was using GPT-4o, and it looks like they've changed the interface because before it used to just show up here in line, but it looks like I'd have to go here to request access, which is totally fine. But it's good that actually this is happening because I can show you to it. And this is what I mean. It looks like a regular form. So you fill out the form and you'll get access, but that's okay. If we don't have O1, I don't care. I'll get access to a model that I know I have access to, and I should have access to GPT-4o. And so I'm looking for 4o and or GPT-4, and so we have it over here. Now you might notice if we went back there are two types. No, actually, it's just one here. I thought it said completion, chat completion, but you need to make note of what's under here. So notice here down where it says Babbage, which, by the way, I think they're retiring off the platform. But notice one says chat completion and one is called completion. Okay, so these are the terms that Microsoft use. Other providers use different terms, but I actually always follow the Microsoft terms because I think they're very clear. But it depends on what you want to do with the model. So if you want to have a chat conversation, you want to deploy a completion model. If you just want to have completion, so let's say you're doing a classical machine learning task like doing prediction, like sentiment analysis, like saying, is this tweet good or bad, yes or no, or true or false, or negative, positive, that makes more sense. Then Babbage would then be able to complete it. Now, some providers, they have the distinction of these two things in their playground, but they don't make it isolated specifically with their models. So I think what's happening here is that when you deploy a model and maybe this is more true for open source models, but open source models come in a couple variants. So if I was to go over to Hugging Face here for a moment. Okay, if I was over, and by the way, who here has used Hugging Face or downloaded a model and used Hugging Face? Can I get a +2 if you have used Hugging Face before? If you haven't ever downloaded a model, worked with Hugging Face, give me a -2. I'm just really curious. And what's your favorite model, Matthew?
I can't remember what I used last time. I think it was one of the Llama variants because I was trying to do local processing.
Okay. For anybody that's out there, if you want to work with local models, Hugging Face is an absolute must. But just as we saw there's a forum, you want to get ahead of your time and just get access to those models. My favorite one to use is Llama 3.2. I know 3.3 is out, but I don't know much about it. But I really like Llama 3.2 1 billion parameter because you can basically run it on anything. It's very cost effective. I can run it on my old Mac M1. Works fantastically. It's a small model to download. But the reason I'm here is that I'm showing you that, notice when I search, we have variants. We have 3.2 1 billion. 3.2 11 vision instruct, 3.2 3 billion instruct. And so I think that when they say chat completion, they mean that it's a model that has been fine-tuned, again, specifically for chat conversation. And generally, I think that means it's an instruct model, that they're going to do a lot better as a chat conversation. So in your mind, just always think that there are two variants of models. There's the base model, and then there's ones that are better trained to do chat. For newer models, this might be less of a non-issue, but this is the way I think of it in my mind to keep kind of track of those things there. But if we come back over to here, we do have access to open source models. I just don't see them on this tab. But if we go over here to the next tab, I'm just seeing, do we see them here? And maybe I went too quick. I'm kind of paying attention to those logos. I'm looking for the meta ones, right? And so here we can see them, and I'm just curious if my logic follows through and I'm just not making up stuff. But yeah, we have Llama. Let's go up here. Llama 3.2 70 billion instruct. So it says instruct and it says chat completion. And then notice the ones that don't have it. This is text generation, but this one is text generation. So I don't know. Maybe my logic does not necessarily work out well, but that's the way I think of it when I'm working with models. If anybody disagrees with me, absolutely open to hearing a different one there. But we'll go back over to here, and we'll want to go ahead and launch a model. So I'm just going to clear this out. Okay. And I want to launch GPT-4 because I know I have access to that. So we'll go ahead here, and we'll go ahead and click deploy. And notice that we have a drop-down of all these different methods of deployment. Now, this isn't all of them, but that's a good amount of them. So if we go over to global deployment types here, I believe that Microsoft has a table of what these differences are. Here it is, up here. And so you can read through it. One thing that I was really surprised is I thought that if something was a global standard, that it would be more expensive. But unusually, I think standard is more expensive than global standard, because you think when something is globally accessible, then it has like acceleration or replication or something additional. But it turns out that standard might be more expensive because it's designed for higher throughput. But what's really important to check is the billing model. So you'll notice that the majority of them are pay per token. The only one that is not is these maybe global provision. So if we go down to global provision, it's hourly billing with the optional purchase of monthly or yearly reservation. And same thing with provision. So clearly, if it says provision, then we're paying per hour. But for the most part, they are pay per token. And you might ask, like, how fast do you get through tokens? Well, I wasn't tracking here on Microsoft, but I was using OpenAI's direct API. And I loaded up like a project for like $10. And this was something where I was taking large movie, like Japanese movies, transcripts, and I was turning them into like full vocabularies and running thousands of lines. And I was doing this quite often, and I was barely like tapping into a couple dollars. So you'd be surprised like how much use you can get out of like $5 of usage. So I wouldn't be afraid to use these things. You'd really have to have a lot of throughput, a lot of usage to really start to see a bill. And I do really recommend the best way to get started prototyping applications is just use serverless APIs or serverless models. But let's go back over to GPT-4o or 4, and again, we do have different ways that we can deploy it. So I'm pretty sure I want to deploy this global standard because I think again it's more cost effective, and I mean, why wouldn't I do that? And so we'll go down below here and hit deploy. Now, what's really interesting, when GPT-4o Mini came out, or 4 Mini, everybody was really excited about it because it was just as good as the bigger model, but it was faster. But then when I wanted to use it, it could only do batch processing, right? So some of these models might only have batch processing, which is where you might have like 1,000 tasks that you wanted to do. You send it to it, and it'll come back 24 hours later and then complete them. So you have to really investigate the deployment options you have in the specific regions of what you have and things like that. Matthew, is there anything that you could speak to in terms of like this regionality and deployment models? Like, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, the only thing you've got to be a bit mindful of with the global standard versus standard is that they say that, and I can't remember what the exact wording is. There's something about your data might be moved to a global data center for processing in global standard, but you start in, it'll try to use your regional one, but the standard one keeps everything within a given region.
That's good to know. From a compliance perspective, right? Like if you have to keep data in a particular area, sorry. Yeah,
the top line there is actually for standard. It says for customers with data residency requirements. So so if you absolutely need to keep everything within the UK or keep everything within a particular region, then that's the one to look for.
Interesting. And it's up to you whether you want to go provisioned. One of the use cases for going provisioned is that if you're using these shared APIs and you're having throughput issues because you are sharing with other folks. I have not heard of this being an issue on the Azure platform. I have heard this being an issue on other providers where folks they built a prototype and then they put it into production, but then they are not getting the capacity that they needed, and so they had to go to provisioned, and then they had to like engineer something specifically for using an open source model, or maybe one that wasn't open source. But just consider, like, that's another a factor you might consider is like, if I need to go provisioned, can I do it, right, for whatever reason based on your use case. So that's just another factor to consider. But we now have it deployed. What I really like about Azure AI Foundry is that you can deploy multiple models. Other providers don't do this. I don't know why they don't. But I can go and I can deploy multiple GPT-4s in different configurations to give them very specific names. And that's really important because if you are trying to monitor, like, let's say you're using more than one of these models and you want to orchestrate them into something that is more complex, you might want to understand the spend of an exact component and Azure makes that really easy for you to do. At least that's what I remember. But now that we have it deployed, we can actually go ahead and utilize it in the playground. And every provider has a playground, but we'll go ahead and say, try the chat playground. I'm not sure why it just doesn't pull up here. This is the redesign, so I'm not familiar with all the stuff down below, but we'll open it up here. And we now have it open. And so we can select our model. I'm going to be honest with you, this UI is not the best. But to be honest, once you get a little bit of experience under your belt, sorry about the burp. The Welsh cakes are really good. But is that you probably want to start working with it programmatically. So we have this model chosen here. We say, give the model some instructions and context. And so I'm going to give it some instructions. I'm going to give it role, and we'll say recipe maker. And we'll say scope, Welsh cuisine. Okay. And so that will give it some context to work with. And so I'm going to go ahead here and apply the changes. Okay, and so now we have set up the system prompt for it. And let's go ahead and see if it works. So we'll say, I need a recipe for Welsh cakes. Let's see what we get back. Okay, and so here it is producing some results, which is great. We're getting a good recipe. Is it a good recipe? I mean, it looks pretty close to what I utilized. I did not have mixed spice. I had to use allspice, but I was told that it is quite similar. So if it's possible. And so we are getting some results back. So, you know, this is great for the playground, but really you're going to want to work with this stuff programmatically. And because Microsoft is good friends with OpenAI, initially the only way that you could work with these in this stuff was actually to use OpenAI's SDK. But now Microsoft and Azure have their own API, which is very similar to the other one that you can utilize. And I actually do have some example code up here. So we move this out of the way. There's that little recorder thing I'm getting out of the way. And we make her over here into my Gen AI Essentials course. I do have a notebook, and I'm going to go ahead here and try to open it up. It's been a while. I'm going to go ahead and use GitHub Codespaces. For this, we'll go ahead and open that up. Normally, I would actually go launch something in Azure Azure ML Studio, but it might take a little bit of time for that, and this will go a lot faster to spin this stuff up. But Matthew, have you been programmatically working at all with these models yet with the SDKs?
Yeah, almost exclusively. One thing I found really handy fairly recently is that you don't have to use keys for the Azure OpenAI link.
Really?
You can do it all now using Azure credentials. You can do it through RBAC. There's a dedicated set of roles for communicating with the OpenAI service.
That's good. Well, I'm still in the primitive years here, so I'll probably just use the endpoint link. But that sounds like that would be better from a permission standpoint to do it that way.
Yeah,
there's one less thing to manage. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I would recommend, if you want to play around with this stuff in code, is a project called Streamlit.
Oh yeah, Streamlit, yeah.
Which is a great chat app that just lets you plug in OpenAI.
So I'm going to go ahead here and just switch out to dark theme, and let's take a look at the code that we have here. And it's pretty straightforward. So Python is pretty ubiquitous at this point. My favorite language is Ruby, but you know, if you're going to be working in generative AI, Azure is a good thing to get under your belt. Yeah, it's always the dark theme, right? I'm not sure why. They say it's actually easier to read things on white screens, or white backgrounds, but I can't do it. So anyway, I have this here, and so we'll go ahead and install Azure AI Inference, Azure AI Projects, and Azure Identity. So we'll go ahead and run this here. We'll say install Jupyter Labs here, and we'll give that a moment. By the way, if you want to go through this at your own pace, I have this stuff recorded. I have a whole Azure AI 102 course that's on Free Code Camp. I also have Azure material specific to this in my Gen AI Essentials course, which is also on Free Code Camp for free. But we'll go here, and I'm going to go ahead and just select the default Python environment, and we'll run that and give that a go. And I'm going to do the dirty, and I'm going to drop in my string link here. So I'm going to go back over to here, and if we go back over to our overview, here's our API key, and we'll go ahead and copy that. And we'll make our way back over to GitHub Codespaces, which is over here. You probably really should, I don't know, load this via environment variables, and I definitely know how to do that, but I'm going to just make things really easy and show folks here. This is my key. Please don't type it out and try to use my spend. But I trust you all. You're all going to do good for me here. So the Mac versus Windows war ended years ago. Now it's dark versus light themes. That's totally right. So I think that this stuff is now installed. If you don't like getting all this output, a nice little trick you can do is do a -q there, but I'm going to leave that alone for now. And so we are going to load in default Azure credentials into a project. We have our project connection string. We'll go ahead and make a connection. Okay, and then of course we'll get an error. Invalid connection string format. So this is something that occurs for me quite a bit, where when I'm first trying to get this thing going, this is where I actually I fight with it the most. But it's not a big deal. Once we figure it out, our lives will be a lot easier. And so I think this is all the same. Let me see here. It should just be this one single key. But if that doesn't work, I'm almost very curious to, no, we don't need the endpoint. Yeah, it literally is just this key. So let's go here for a second. And we'll take a look here. Nope, that's no good. We'll go back over to here. I'm going to copy this again. And we'll try this one more time. And we'll paste it in. And we'll run this here. It says invalid connection string format. So maybe there's some kind of extra thing going on here that I'm not aware of. So let's go take a look at this documentation, see if we can figure that out. It wouldn't be a tech demo. Things went right. But let's see if we can find that connection string. See, the reason I'm not going out and asking ChatGPT is because this is such a newer implementation. I don't have confidence that it might be there, but we'll go ahead and go over to here. And so it says, here from the connection string, create from the client project, and we have token credential. So I'm wondering if maybe, it says, I'm wondering if it may be that it has to be wrapped in something, unless the API has changed. It's not unusual for the APIs to change here. But we have connection string. It says project connection string. We go over to here, and it says it's requiring a string. Okay, can we click into further and try to figure out its format? This looks like a standard thing. It's just talking about strings in general, so that is not very useful. We also have token credential, so to use to authenticate a request to services. Okay. But we said we just want the default ones, which is fine. So I'm not exactly sure what it doesn't like, but it says put project connection strings. Let's go back over to here. And we are in a project. We absolutely are in a project. And this is definitely the one that we want. Oh, but we have this over here.
Yeah,
Project connection string.
Right-hand side.
Ah, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay. There we go. Careful reading always wins the day. So we'll go ahead and we'll try this. There we go. Interesting. And then we'll go to here and we will go ahead and grab that here. So it's failed to retrieve a token, including the credentials. Ah, so maybe we're supposed to set this via the environment variables. This goes to show how much I remember from this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And we'll say API key, because maybe we have to set it via the envars. I wonder if I made instructions for it. Nope, I didn't make a README here. And so I think it's still expecting that API key to be set here. This developer CLI cannot be found. Visit here. I guess we could probably try to install that, and that might help get it to work. Sorry, yes?
Just do AZ login in the terminal.
Yeah, I don't think it's installed. That's why I think it was trying to prompt it for us, right? So Azure CLI, we'll go ahead and install it. There might be like a faster way to install it in GitHub Codespaces, but it's not a big deal. But we'll go over to here to Linux, and I'll bring this on over here. No matter how many times I do this stuff, I always mess up. It's not a big deal. And we'll go ahead and grab the single one-line command to install this. Okay.
It's unusual that it needs both the Azure credential and the connection string.
Yep. I try not to think too hard about it. I'm just kind of like, I'm just used to, navigating whatever we need to do to get it to work.
Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and give that a go there. I'm just going to go and take a look at our time. We're still doing good for time here, I believe. But, if we can get this working, then that would be a really good achievement. So that is now installed. We'll go ahead and do an AZ login. There we go. Get the keyboard back warmed up here. And we'll say AZ login. I should give us a prompt to sign in here. I'm going to grab this here. There's probably, isn't it like an AZ log? There's probably like a flag we're supposed to do saying like no web browser or something. And we'll go ahead and grab this. If this doesn't work, that's fine. We'll just make a quick adjustment. I just can't remember. I'm in too many clouds, so I can never remember which is which. Say yes. And we say yes. And it looks like it is verifying it. Select description and tenant. Yeah, 1 sounds good. And I think we are good now. There's warnings and stuff. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to assume that it worked and we're in good shape. We'll go back over to here. We'll press this again. Probably don't have to do that, but we'll do it again anyway. And now we'll hit enter. And it says it's good. And we'll go ahead and hit chat complete. And now what is our issue? So it says unavailable model GPT-4o. So here I'm doing 4o. That makes me think that I must have had access to it before, but maybe it's region specific. So clearly I have used it before. That's totally fine. We'll switch this over to GPT-4. And I believe that is matching the name of the deployed model. So I'm not saying use GPT-4 model. I'm saying use the deployment called GPT-4o. And we can probably confirm that if we go back over to here and check our deployments. And where is our deployments here? Are we in the right project? I believe, yeah, my Welsh cakes. And we have models. Here it is. Yeah, so it's called GPT-404, so it's called model name, right? So think of it that way. And we can see that we're getting some stuff back, okay? But, you know, if you were to look at some of the features that are in here, if we were to go back over to here on the left-hand side, it's not showing here, because again, we are in another one. But if we were to switch over to another project in another region, okay, and maybe not that one. I'm trying to find US East 1. I could have named these projects a little bit better, and I would have had an easier time finding them. Nope, that's not it either. Nope, that's not either. But what I wanted to show you is like the parallelization or like the similarity between OpenAI and the Azure AI interface. So if we were to go to OpenAI here, okay, and we were to go and log into it, let's give it a moment to load here, and we would go down to, nope, we'll give it one more try. Oh, maybe it's products, API login. I don't know why they do that. I don't know, they just have a big login thing in the top right corner, make my life a lot easier. But if we were to go into this playground, you'll notice that it has chat, real-time assistance, TTS, and things like this. If we can make our way to a US East 1, we would see those here on the left-hand side. And they're basically like one-to-one mappings to that interface. So if you're wondering what those assistants are, that's where they are. One thing I noticed is that prompt flow is not available in all regions. So like it's in the Sweden one here, but we go to US East 1, it vanishes. Prompt flow, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful orchestration tools that you can utilize. You're probably hearing the term agentic or agents quite a bit. And prompt flow is one that makes it very easy for you to create these very quickly. But let's go back over to our code example here and see if there's anything else that we would like to do. One thing I just would like to show is that, again, the APIs are extremely similar, if not the same. So if we were to go find the OpenAI example, I probably have one here down below. And I go into this one here. We could, in theory, use this API. And originally it is the one, but notice like it's literally identical. So this one's OpenAI. And this has a model. This one has messages. I think the only difference is that you have to import Azure OpenAI, right? Something like that. But you can do it this way. But I strongly recommend that going forward, you use the Azure SDK specifically for interfacing with Foundry. Now, obviously, there are like Gen AI is more than just LLMs, and so this thing is not all just LLMs, and we can actually launch a an image service. So I'm curious if we go over to AI services here. And if we wanted to generate an image, again, they've changed it here. Maybe it might be better for us to switch to another region because this one's kind of not showing me all the resources. So we'll go back over to here into Azure AI Foundry, and I'm looking for US East. So here we have Azure AI Project US East here. So I'll click into that one. And then we'll launch Studio this way. I just want to see if we can generate an image of Welsh cakes. I just think it'd be fun. And we go over to Playground here. We can go down to the image Playground. And we don't have a deployment, so we'll go ahead and go here. And let's deploy an image model. So we have Dolly 3 and Dolly 2. I'm going to go ahead and deploy Dolly 3 here today. Dolly 3 is for generating out images. And we have a few different deployment options. Notice the only option is standard. So again, sometimes you have to just use what they have, and that's totally fine. We'll go ahead and connect to deploy that. And we'll see if we can go ahead and generate an image. So Matthew, have you had a chance to work with PromptFlow yet?
No, well, a little bit. We've been mostly kind of deep in the code, so we've been semantic kernel, lang chaining, all that kind of those wonderful things. But no, we've done some stuff with some of the speech LLMs, which are very good, and some of a little bit of the video generation stuff as well, which is scarily good in places.
So here we're doing Welsh cakes. Do that look like, those don't look like Welsh cakes to me.
Yeah, it's close.
Well, it's close, right? So maybe we can help the prompt do a little bit better. One way that we can do that is we can just try to ask it to make a prompt for us. So I'm going to go back over to here. Now, this is a common technique, is just ask the prompt to make, like, say if you're doing better prompting or not. I'm trying to open up another one here. It's taking its time. But if it's taking too long, what we can do is cheat, and we'll just go use the API directly. And I'm going to go over to here and say, we'll swap this out here for a second. And clear this out. Whoops. Whoops. Oh, I don't have my Vim keys on. That's why I'm confused. But we'll say role image prompt generator. We don't even need a system role, but like write me a good prompt for Dolly to generate an image of Welsh cakes, right? So we'll go ahead and write that. We'll run that. So we get back as our results. Okay. And really, does it really need that much? But okay. Hey, if it works, no argument here. But I am quite surprised how long that is. Maybe because we didn't set the token count on it, but that's one thing you can do if you don't like the length of it. I mean, obviously we could say like, don't make it so long, but we could also restrict it based on the token counts, which is a parameter here. Let's go ahead and paste it in and see what we get. It took it, so. I'm thinking that the, when I was first using Azure AI, why does it think those are Welsh cakes? Well, it must be Welsh cakes because we have the Wales dragon. What is it called? What is it? What proper name does that have? Does it have a proper name?
The Welsh flag.
Oh, the Welsh flag. Oh, it's literally the flag, right? But the dragon itself.
Yeah, it's the flag.
Okay. So, got to be a dragon. Must be Welsh. But yeah, those don't look like Welsh cakes to me. Well, that's totally fine. Like, there's probably a way to get to work, but you have to describe it in a particular way. And we are using GPT-4. If we were using GPT-4o, maybe we would get a better result. And that's just something you have to play around with. So nothing is perfect out here. Let's go take a look and see if we could do a audio text, speech to text, or sorry, text to speech. So that one in particular should be Whisper. And when I was first working with Azure AI Studio, I didn't know much about it. Now I know too much about Whisper, and I love Whisper. So I'm wondering how we could find that here. If we go down and drop it down, there should be some way. It is an OpenAI project. So if we were to just limit that to OpenAI, we should see Whisper. And so here we have text to speech, but we also have Whisper. So I'm not sure if this is the older one. I can't remember. Probably is. But Whisper is really, 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 really good. I wonder if it could do Welsh. That's a good question. So let's go ahead and deploy this model. Again, I've never deployed this on Azure AI Studio. We're just kind of having fun here. And it's already deployed, which is really interesting. Now, Whisper comes in different sizes. If we were to go take a look up of Whisper, OpenAI Whisper, who here has used Whisper? Can I get a +3 if you've ever used Open Whisper? If you've never used it, give me a -3. And we'll go over to GitHub here. We have a +3, so Matthew has some experience there with it. But -3, never heard of this. Heard of it in this context. So, so Whisper is just like really, really good at you giving it text and it outputs aught. Wait, which way is it? Text to speech. This one is voice to text. So you give it an audio input and it produces text. So I guess my question, John, Matthew, do either of you know any Welsh words or sentences? Can we task you with that? Is that too big of a too big of a
defer to Matthew.
I was going to say that's way out of my comfort zone.
There's got to be somebody on the call with some. I know 1 or 2 words.
Now, if someone can drop me an audio, I'd love to try this out. But I know a bit of Japanese. By the way, my boot camp's all focused around language learning, so I'm pretty good at it. But this model here comes in different sizes. And basically, the bigger the model, the slower it is, but the smarter it is. And it's trained on different sets. So we go here. I'm not even sure if there's Welsh in here. But it'd be fun to see if it could handle it. But obviously, if you have a common language like English, this is going to perform better. But for Japanese, I had to figure out where that's performed. And so I had to go up to, I think, small to get it to do what I wanted to do. It couldn't work on tiny. But if we go back over to here, to the Whisper model, let's see if we can work with it. So I'm just trying to think where this would work, because again, never used it here before. And we're in the images playground, but we have a speech playground. So enhance customer experience through speech to text or text to speech. Okay, so now they've kind of like cemented these into these individual interfaces. And so we wanted to do transcription. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to take audio and turn it into whatever it is. Here it says fast transcription. I don't care if it's fast. I just want it to be accurate, right? But we have batch and fast. Maybe they mean fast as in like real time, like we're going to do it right now, and batch means we'll go do it later. And so here we can drag and drop an audio file. So I'm going to need to record an audio file. I'm just trying to think what's the best way to do that really quickly. And maybe what I'll do is just open up Adobe Audition if my computer can handle it. Does anybody want to? Does anybody want to try to give me a Welsh clip? Or you know what? Why can't we just find an audio clip of someone speaking Welsh? Audio clip of Welsh speaker. And so this one's 1 minute and 43 seconds. I need one that's really, really short, like 5 seconds. Something really, really short. These models don't do well at very, very great lengths. Get a real time clip from John. So I'm just trying to figure out like what's the way that we can get this. I know I could grab this one in particular if I was to download the audio. There's actually a really good tool that we can utilize. I'm going to cheat and go use ChatGPT real quick. I say using YLP, can you extract just the audio of a YouTube video? For those who don't know, YLP is a tool that interfaces with YouTube. And it can, in one line, download the stuff. So I find this really useful. And so this is exactly what I need. So I'm going to go back over to here. And I'm just going to make I'll just go down here and say pip install YLP. And I could not find a version that meets your requirements. I mean, it should be able to do that. Oh, YTDPL. Okay, so I got the name wrong. My bad. But we'll need that, and we'll also need FFmpeg. So I'm going to see if I can install that really quickly here. How are we doing for time, John?
Yeah, no, we got 5-10 minutes.
Okay. So let's see if we can. I want to see if we can make this happen. Yeah. So I'm trying.
I have recorded a clip, Andrew. I'm just trying to find a way of sharing it with you, like a really short clip.
Well, as you do that, I'm going to see if I can get FFmpeg installed with and run while DLP, and then people will know how to download the stuff. I actually use this tool a lot because when I'm trying to learn Japanese and I'm driving for hours, I will go to YouTube and use this tool to just download the audio and then put it on my phone. But it's this is one really good tool when you're trying to work with LLMs. At least I like this one quite a bit. And so that is now downloaded. And so in theory, I should now be able to run this line and grab out that audio. So I'm going to go back over to here. And we'll paste it in. And so we need to go back to YouTube. Where is YouTube? What happened to YouTube? It is gone. But we'll go and say, what did I say? Welsh speaker audio example. And this one was really short. So I'm going to grab this link here. We'll pause it. I'm going to go back over to here, paste this in, hit enter. Did it work? Did it work? Did it work? Downloading. It says it downloaded. Error. Sign in to confirm you're not a bot. Oh. Okay, so use. I think it's because I'm doing this in a. If I was doing this on my local computer, I don't think it would give us a problem. Sign in from browser. Can I do that? Well, I did what they told me to do. Did I not? We'll try this one more time. Oh, so I have to provide it a cookie. Oh. Okay. I'm going to do something that I'll probably regret doing. But I'm going to try to find an online service. So extract audio from YouTube video. I probably should have prepared a clip, but what do you want from me? Working demos. That's probably what. So I'm just doing this off screen because you know these sites are kind of questionable sometimes. And so I'm going to see if I can extract one from here. YouTube video, the audio. I'm just trying to find another one here. Yeah, I think this one's going to work, the Y2Mate. Again, I'm just doing this off screen as I just don't know what I can expect to see when I'm doing this. But yeah, if I installed this on my local computer, I would have had better luck here. And right now, it's just processing the audio for download. But yeah, I just want to see if we can get an output, and whatever output we get would be really interesting. So it says that it's done. So I'm downloading the clip now, and the audio is coming through. We'll go through here, and now I'm getting weird ads popping up at me. Don't worry, I'm closing them off screen here, and we can go back over to here. And so we are in. Here for fast transcription, and it wants us to browse and drop the files. I'm going to see if I can drop that on in. Okay, and so now it's processing. The only thing I can't tell here is what size of model is it using? And also, is it using the model that we think that it's using? So we go down below here, and so I don't necessarily see those options. And okay, and so we have an output. Does anyone know if this can read this and if it makes any sense? Does it look like Welsh?
Absolutely not. It's just it's an English transcription of what you think they say.
So, my expectation is that it would have a hard time because this is a more I don't want to say niche, but it is not as a global language like Spanish, and so. They would need to have more training data for that to work. There could be on Hugging Face a very specific model for that. So if we went to Hugging Face and we said Welsh Whisper, there could be one. I mean, it says Welsh CPU, so I'm not sure if that's true, but it does say Welsh in the name. And so sometimes you can find models and download them, and you'd be surprised that somebody has made one for those target languages. So you just have to understand that these are hosted services, and you can get the most generic one, but if you really need a custom one, you'll have to go ahead and do that. I don't think at this point, well, I think you can upload models, but I'm not sure if you could upload this specific Whisper model and host it on provisioned specifically through here. But that's just kind of a showcase of those kind of limitations. So in this demo, we did text, we did images, we did audio. It would have been fun to show off prompt flow, and I'll just go here for 2 seconds. I know we're out of time, But if you go here in PromptFlow, they actually have some standard examples that you can launch, and with the press of a button, it will completely launch up an agentic workflow for you. You can take the code out here. It has a full UI interface, but you can there's like I think there's an extension in VS Code, and it allows you to have the same interface that is in here. So there's really no reason to work in the UI in here. It's the experience is just as good, if not better, within VS Code. But yeah, that's all I have here today. If anybody has any specific questions around Azure AI Foundry, happy to show you this. I go in much greater depth and cover every little thing in my full course. It's just too hard to condense it in that time, if that makes sense.
Pleasure as always, Andrew. Absolutely fantastic. No, well done. I think, to jump in and, have a working demo like that is kudos to your presentation skills, sir. So, yeah, picked up a lot there. I think there's, like you say, there's enough to delve into, isn't there, in terms of the ways you can take it. And there's some really good use cases and examples on the AI Foundry pages from what I've seen. But no, really good. And unless there's any last minute questions, I don't think so. I think we did pretty good job as we went along there, right? No more questions that I can see. So if everybody would like to show your appreciation for Andrew, thank you, sir. Nothing more that I can say. Superb demo. You can finish your Welsh cakes off now in peace.
Oh, they're good. But yeah, anyway, if anybody wants to learn more about it, pregenai.cloudprojectbootcamp.com. And what's really fun this year is that we made we give out badges, but the top tier badge we actually made a like a trading card. It's called the Red Squad Gen Dragon, and for those who actually achieve that level, I actually ship it to them. We also have like professional looking badges for those that they go, that's great, Andrew, but I want a professional badge for my LinkedIn. I go, okay, fine, that's fine.
That's amazing. No, that's really good. No, I encourage everybody to go and follow Andrew and what he's up to in the training world, because it's been absolutely superb content for many years. I think it's probably fair to say. But no, thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. I did record a recording. It wouldn't go through to your email, Andrew. I was just trying to share it from my laptop quickly, but it's clearly Microsoft have put some good purview policies in place, so I couldn't get it through.
That's okay.
But hey ho, no, it was good work, sir. I think we've got sort of a quasi English translation, but like you say, the models will get better. We've got to find somebody Welsh to train one now.
Yeah.
And on that note, shall we crack on with the quiz, Matt?
So I thought before we crack on with the quiz,
you've got all frozen as well on us.
Have I? Oh, that's a bad start.
Am I there now? Anyway, your desktop is through. Your camera's all.
I'll stop the camera for a minute. I just thought I would. Can you see the editor there?
Yes.
Yeah. So to answer your question, one of your questions, Andrew, is that one of the things I've been playing around with is this is the quiz we're going to run.
Oh, okay.
And this is the co-pilot I have in the quiz. So just for your satisfaction, if I get it to generate me a question for the quiz, it'll now generate me a nice multiple choice question with the right answer. And the one thing that I'm missing at the moment is generating an image off of it as well to have on the page on the question when it goes, because the model wasn't available in a location that I had an installation
in. Makes sense. Yeah,
but it's on the backlog.
But the correct answer isn't in a microwave.
Get out. There we go. Anyway,
maybe in America. I would expect that of Canada, mind, Andrew.
Yeah, no. Right. I'm hoping this works because I've been doing some deployments of this today. So let's see whether or not I've broken anything. But there we go. As per normal. Anyone's welcome to join.
I will go for top two, 25.
Yeah, I think so.
Amazon
Not good.
top two for tonight. So How many of us are there? 13, 14?
Yep, like that.
So in with a
My
good
camera back again
chance.
now. Am I?
And the prize, is it in American dollars? I'm not sure if people know, like the ratio to American Canadian dollars is like 1 to 100. So our dollar's not doing too good
Nice
right now.
try.
Nice try.
In fact, both John and I have got good connections back to Canada, haven't we, mate? So,
Well, yeah, you've been recently,
You're not-
haven't you? You've got family out there.
yeah, I was there in September. So,
Big old place when you come from a small country like the UK.
okay.
Anyone struggling
think
to get on? Anyone struggling? Speak now. Put a note in the
I don't
chat.
think I used the AI generation for a lot of these questions. I did for a couple, I think, but
But this whole thing you built?
Yeah.
And did you use AI throughout to build it, or just the question generation?
well, it's been there for what? When did we start using this, John? It was about 2.5 years ago. Nearly must have
It's
been
a
2.5.
while.
So
There's a video on it. Funny enough.
yeah.
Oh.
Actually, there's a talk I did on actually creating it, so, which is in the
Cool.
backlog for the Welsh Azure somewhere. Yes, thank you, Alan. It was built in pre-AI in 1969. I'm not that old. I'm getting there, but I'm not that old. So yeah, actually, I'm in. It's been funny making changes to it in the last couple of weeks and using Copilot a lot. And actually, I particularly like being able to speak to it, just being able to fire up the microphone and just say, "How does this work? Explain that to me. Write me some unit tests." And that's just wonderful. Anyway, I think we'll crack on that. Unless anyone's really struggling.
Yeah, there's no messages in the chat. Everybody okay? Last time? Give a countdown.
3,
10 of us.
2, 1. Let's roll. Which of the following can you not back up with Azure Backup?
Oh no, I wasn't paying attention enough.
That's normally what I do,
Oh,
Andrew.
I got it right. Okay.
Okay. What's the purpose of the Azure Backup service? This was an AI generated question because I had to trim it a lot because it didn't fit in any of the answers fitted anywhere.
Oh, 2 for 2. I was a bit slow on that one
Excellent.
though.
What does RPO stand for?
And he's a fastest finger as well, isn't it, Matt?
It
The
is a
quicker you
fastest
get in
finger.
there with your
yeah,
answer, the more points you get.
I did have a very long-winded question about the difference between RPO and RTO, but again, it wouldn't fit in the pages. So Welsh Azure turns 5 in 2025. In which month was our first online event?
Ooh.
So yeah, this is going to be a random one for some people. This is my separating the
I wonder if I get it right.
field a little bit.
Oh, I
It
didn't get
was
it.
September.
I got it right.
I'm glad you did, John.
You'd be a bit bad about it.
What type of AI services does Azure AI Foundry provide? Again, I think that was an AI generated question.
Did it also
can use-
pull it? Like, is the gift also pulled in as well? Like, did it?
No, I use Giphy. I've got a link into Giphy directly, so I can just do a search in the app.
Was that other one like that? Looked like is that a British game show? The last one I just saw.
Oh, could be. Yeah, I must admit, I literally just use the keyword search in Giphy and then pick one of the top 5.
Ah, I see. Okay.
I didn't recognize it. Don't know what it was.
What's the primary purpose of Azure AI Foundry? it's easy ones this week. What's the ARM resource provider for the Azure OpenAI resources? So you usually get Microsoft.web is app service or Microsoft.storage. What's the one for Azure OpenAI? Come on, Andrew, you're under pressure now.
Oh, I got it right. Okay. And the reason I know this is because it all used to be called Cognitive Services. So I'm just like,
Yep.
I bet it hasn't changed. So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It should have been Skynet, Tim.
Which region is Azure AI Foundry not available?
oh. Wait, why did I choose that? Oh,
Canada West, because I don't think there is a Canada West. I think I made
Well,
that one up.
that's right away. That's what I thought, right? Yeah.
Which LLMs will not be supported in GitHub Copilot's multi-model service thing? So there's a thing in GitHub Copilot where you can just basically choose which model you want to generate your answers.
I think I know this one. There's some lines drawn with which models. Oh, what? Really? You can
Yep.
use Gemini?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Like, so first I thought it'd be Llama 2.6 because for those who don't know, like as the models progress, they don't give you access to older models. So
Yep.
logically it should be Llama 2.6, but I thought maybe not Gemini because, you know,
No,
different turfs.
they've opened it up. It's a weird thing about GitHub. Even though they're owned by Microsoft, they are fiercely independent and fiercely multi-cloud. How much is Microsoft investing in India over the next 2 years? This was a news story that came out, I think it was this week. Early this week.
This one actually, yeah. Very interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I got it. I didn't hear the story, but that's a lot of spend.
Mm-hmm.
Like for employees or infrastructure building, or just in general.
It was training and I think it was infrastructure as well, but I think the majority of it was on upskilling.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Tim and Nick,
we have our winners. Tim and Nick, congratulations. We'll get an Amazon voucher. Can you do me a favor and quickly drop your email in the chat if you don't mind putting in the chat, or send it to me privately if you want to on LinkedIn or X, just so I can act as a reminder and get those vouchers organized for you. Well, there we go. We made it. Super quiz. Thanks, Matt.
I will say, if anyone wants to play with this, you can go to quizzer.co.uk, and as long as you log in with a GitHub account, you can create whatever you want from this. But it is under development, so if it suddenly stops working,
yeah, it's a case of watching your Azure portal $150 drain down, is it, Matt?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thankfully, most of it runs on the client, so it's mostly somebody else's problem.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting concept, actually. Maybe, you know, offloading. Well, no, it wouldn't make sense really, but edge compute and all that, moving the AI piece to cheaper compute, like the person's laptop.
And the AI spend is so small anyway. It's
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, until you've now got everybody logging in with their GitHub accounts and creating quizzes.
Well, if they're generating lots of quizzes, I'll shut it down. There you go. Your mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary indeed. Right, let's bring this one to a close then. Right, firstly, as per usual, thank you hugely to both our speakers, Marcin, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure, as I expected. You know, before you guys came on tonight, I knew it was going to be a great night again. So thank you both. 2 super talks. I hope everybody would agree. You know, the guys giving up their time to come on and partake some knowledge over to all of us. A lot over here, well, in mainly UK, I think, but certainly the wider field. So yeah, if everybody could show your appreciation for the speakers, that would be absolutely awesome. And of course, goes without saying, thank you to everybody that's joined in person here tonight. I say in person, virtually, however you want to frame it. Thanks hugely for joining and supporting these user groups. Please do help us spread the word for the next groups. We do run monthly, so normally it's every third Wednesday of the month we will have a Welsh Azure user group session. We've got February's planned already, so please bookmark the date, 19th of February, put that in your diaries now. And yeah, if you could help us spread the word, that would be absolutely awesome. Thank you everybody for joining. Hope you've had fun. Thank you once again to the speakers, and let's call it a night there. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you all very soon, hopefully.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers all.
Thank you.